I still remember that morning like it's burned into my mind forever. The sun wasn't even up properly. And yet there it stood, a bright red Corvette sitting flat on its belly, all four wheels gone, brake discs grinding against the asphalt like metal skeletons. People gathered around it in disbelief, some whispering, some laughing, some recording. But the loudest sound wasn't the scraping metal or the gasps. It was Karen's scream, sharp enough to crack glass. "My baby's car! Who did this? Who vandalized my son's Corvette?" Everyone knew exactly which son she meant. Everyone also knew exactly why it happened. But no one said a word. Not yet. And as the chaos grew, as the HOA board rushed over, pretending to care, and as Karen raged like sirens in human form, I stood quietly near my door, watching her meltdown from a distance. Because deep down, she knew I didn't do it. She knew I wasn't stupid enough, but she also knew I was the reason it finally happened.
2 weeks earlier, everything was normal. My routine was simple. Wake up, get my crutches, carefully walk down the steps, and drive to physical therapy. Ever since the accident last year, mobility wasn't easy. The handicap placard wasn't something I wanted, it was something I needed. And the reserved parking spot right next to my apartment was the only thing that made daily life bearable. That spot had always been respected. Everyone in the complex knew whose it was. Everyone except one person. Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, and her 24-year-old son, Chase, who walked like the world owed him a trophy and talked like he failed every subject except arrogance. The first time I saw his red Corvette roar through the lot, I felt the bass shake in my chest. Loud engine, louder ego. He revved like he needed the world to applaud him every morning. I didn't care. Live your life. Be loud. Be annoying. Whatever. Until he crossed the line. My line.
It was a Monday, the worst day already. I came back from therapy exhausted, sore, and freezing because winter was crawling in early. I turned into the complex and froze. There it was, the red Corvette parked right in my clearly marked handicap spot. Handicap sign feet from his bumper. Blue paint, bright as day. No mistake, no confusion, just pure entitlement. I parked far, struggled out of the car, and made the painful walk back. My crutch slipped on a patch of wet concrete, and I barely caught myself on a railing. I approached Chase, who was casually sitting on the hood of his car, scrolling through his phone like a runway model waiting for camera flashes. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice polite, "that's my handicap spot. I really need it." He didn't even look up. "I'm just here for a bit." "You've been here for hours." He shrugged. "Still temporary." I held on to my patience the way a drowning man grabs the last breath of air. "Please move. I physically need that space." He finally looked at me, bored, smirking. "I'll move when I'm done." That was it. No apology, no respect, just that smirk. But what stung more? Karen was right there, watering her plants, hearing the whole thing, and pretending she didn't. 2 days later, he did it again. This time, I approached him more firmly. "I asked you politely last time. This needs to stop." He laughed. "Dude, chill. You're not even that handicapped. I saw you walk." My chest tightened. That sting, when someone uses your injury as an insult, it hits deeper than any physical pain. "That's not for you to judge," I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking. He raised an eyebrow. "Well, maybe you should walk faster then. By the time you get here, I'm usually leaving anyway." Karen stepped in then, crossing her arms like a villain in a bad TV show.
My son has important things to do. You shouldn't talk to him like that. And besides, are you sure you're really disabled? Some people fake it for parking privileges, you know. My blood boiled. Not embarrassment, not anger. Humiliation. Dark, deep humiliation. I walked away before my hands started shaking. That night, for the first time in months, my leg cramped so hard I cried myself to sleep.
The third incident wasn't an incident. It was an attack. I had a doctor appointment early morning. My physical therapist had warned me, missing sessions slows recovery. I couldn't afford to skip it. When I stepped outside, the Corvette was in my spot again. This time with a handwritten note taped to the handicap sign. Reserved for VIP parking. Take the bus. My heart sank. My jaw clenched. The anger was sharp and blinding, but beneath it was something worse. Helplessness. I took photos. I sent them to the HOA group chat. I emailed the board. I called the office. No one responded. Except Karen. In the group chat, she wrote, "If OP wants special privileges, they should pay extra for a premium spot. My son needs that space more than you do." That was the moment I broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, silently. The kind of break where anger turns into clarity.
That night, I made a plan. Not revenge, not sabotage. Something smarter. I documented everything. Dates, times, photos, videos, his rude comments, Karen's replies, screen recordings of her messages, HOA violations from their own handbook. I saved it all in a folder labeled, "Just in case." I also talked to the city enforcement office. They told me something I didn't know. Parking in a marked handicap spot without a placard? Up to $1,000 fine. Vehicle legally towed. Immediate violation. No warnings required. That information wasn't just helpful, it was fuel.
The next Friday was the worst. Cold, rainy, windy. And yes, he was in my spot again. But this time, I didn't walk over. I didn't ask. I didn't beg. I called the city parking enforcement. A calm officer listened. I sent photos. He said, "We'll be there shortly. Do not confront them." I waited inside, peeking through the blinds. 22 minutes later, a tow truck rolled in like a shining angel of justice. It backed up right in front of the Corvette. The driver hooked it up. The car lifted off the ground. I felt the sweetest satisfaction I'd tasted all year. Then Chase came running out barefoot, screaming, "What the hell? That's my car! Stop! Stop!" The officer pointed at the handicap sign. Chase argued, yelled, begged. Nothing worked. They towed his precious Corvette away while he stood in the rain, drenched, furious, helpless. I didn't smile, but inside, a quiet peace spread through me.
The next morning, Karen showed up at my door like a storm in human form. She banged so hard the walls shook. "You had no right!" she screamed before I even opened. I stayed calm. "Your son parked illegally. That spot should be his. He's young. He has things to do. You can walk fine. I see you." "That's not how disabilities work," I said softly. She jabbed her finger at my chest. "You think you won? You won nothing. I'm reporting you to the HOA for harassment, and I'll make sure you're punished for calling the city on us." I shut the door slowly. Not slammed, not angrily. Quietly. Because I knew something she didn't. Everything was documented. A week later, we had an emergency HOA meeting. Karen sat in the front row whispering angrily to the board members she manipulated. I presented every piece of evidence: dates, photos, videos, screenshots, the note calling my spot VIP parking. The board went silent. One member cleared his throat and said, "This is very serious." Karen exploded. "This is discrimination! My son is being targeted!" The board ignored her. They issued a formal HOA violation, a $600 penalty, a written warning, and a temporary suspension of her voting rights. Chase glared at me like he wanted the ground to swallow me whole. But the war wasn't over. The night before the incident, something interesting happened. Around 1 a.m., I heard loud music, then shouting, then the sound of tools. I peeked outside. Chase and a group of friends were drinking near the parking lot, bragging loudly about how they were going to get even. One of them said, "Bro, just take his plates, teach him a lesson." Another laughed, "Slash his tires instead." My stomach tightened. I recorded everything from my window. I didn't report it, not yet, but the video went straight into my folder. And then, around 3 a.m., they all left. Drunk, loud, stupid. And the Corvette sat there alone, sparkling under the streetlight.
At sunrise, screams shattered the quiet. Karen shrieked like a horror movie actress. Chase yelled curses at the sky. The entire neighborhood rushed outside. The Corvette was sitting directly on the asphalt, all 4 wheels missing. Removed cleanly, professionally. No slashes, no dents, just gone. Karen immediately accused me, pointing, screaming, crying. But the police came, looked at Chase, and said, "Ma'am, someone jacked the car using tools. That requires time, equipment, and experience. It wasn't him." I stood on my porch, quietly, watching, not celebrating, not gloating, just watching karma do what karma does best.
2 hours later, the police returned with new information. They had checked security footage from the gas station nearby. Guess who they saw bragging the night before? Chase's own friends. Guess who owed money to a local friend he partied with? Chase. Guess who took the wheels as repayment for a debt? Also Chase's friends. It wasn't me. It wasn't the HOA. It wasn't some mystery vigilante. It was his own circle, his own choices, his own chaos. Karen tried to apologize later, but it wasn't real, just another act. I accepted it silently anyway, because some victories don't need celebration. They just need closure. From that day onward, my handicapped spot stayed empty. Always. And whenever I walk past Chase's spot, where his scraped-up Corvette now sits like a wounded animal, I think of one simple truth. Sometimes you don't need revenge. Sometimes you just need patience. Because eventually, people destroy themselves.